Hello, Music Multiverse listeners, the show you've been waiting for, the show I've been dreading. Tonight, it's Panelists' favorite show, favorite country albums. You know, this genre of music, born of folk and Appalachian migration and blues, is the artistry of the southwestern United States, with fiddle and banjo and harmonica at the helm, molding these ballads or any form of dance. What? A form of dance? Yeah, later they called that honky tonk. Was first recorded in the 1920s. And of course, the famous starters of that, well, Jimmy Rogers and the Carter family, no relation to the president from the 70s.
June.
Although certainly a landmark in the name throughout because, well, you get June Carter Cash, multi-Grammy Award winner, influencer, and bride of Johnny Cash. So from these beginnings, like all forms of music, it becomes larger, more encompassing, creating subgenre after subgenre, from its early beginnings of bluegrass and honky tonk to the creative fusion of rock, rap, and alternative. Rap? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're a traditionalist in the string-soaked ballad and honky tonk dance, or if you love that rockabilly foot stomping bluesy go thing, or maybe you're a pop-centric listener who loves to get your boots back and your heart back after it's been tooken. Or, you know, you live that modernism for benders, murders, and risque material. This genre probably has catapulted itself to one of the largest fan bases on the entire planet, much to my awful chagrin. Don't take it personal. I certainly don't. I just turn it off.
Oh no.
From Roy Rogers to Johnny Cash to Garsh, I don't want to do Garth Brooks and to Tim McGraw, from Patsy Cline to Dolly Parton to Shania Twain to Taylor Swift, from the Carter family to the Alabama family to the family formerly known as the Dixie Chicks and to the family of the Zac Brown Band. There is a voice, there's a genre or style for any ear. Whoa, really? Maybe even mine? Yes, there is. Scary as it may be, I'm bringing 5 favorite country albums because they are my favorite. Are they country? Well, might be a little bit to be desired, right? But anyway, tonight our panelists explore hopefully a wide variety of this wicked genre, which even goes as far as I saw swamp country. And I think Creedence Clearwater was in that genre. So, hey, you know, take it with a grain. Before we enter the cowboy or start trucking or worse, line dance, let's get the millions of you that are not subscribed. We'll wait because I don't want to do the show. No. That way we can monetize this Buffalo Ranch. And I'm not talking about the dressing. Obviously, those of you who are picking us up daily, you're the genuine article. So thank you for spurring us on. Enough? Okay, sure. Why not? The panelists tonight. Damn, she feels like a woman. Deb Armitage Hicks Maloney. And he got drop kicked by Jesus, and he's still waiting to be healed. Alex Kalisny, who's joined us from the hat. Apparently, the Grateful Dude went 10 rounds with Jose Cuervo. Won't be making it. And my wife, she's actually in Texas, so hopefully she'll bring me back a nice matching hat like Alex has for the next time we do this, which apparently we're going to have to, because I spent a ridiculous amount of time in the genre, immersing myself and then cleansing myself later with that battery acid. So, how are we tonight?
We're great. I've been excited for this.
Purified and Southern baptized.
Oh, yeah.
And by that, I mean, I'm baptizing my stomach with a good drink.
Very nice. Very nice.
All right. So, 5 favorite country albums. Always ladies first. Deb, number 5.
All right. Well, I've talked about her on our previous shows many times. Patsy Cline. she was my first introduction to country, even though I really don't classify her so much as country. Anybody can really fall in love with her voice, her style of singing. Her songs are very much crooning type songs. But I picked the very best of Patsy Cline for anybody out there that's never really known anything about her. Listen to it. You're going to probably be surprised by how many hits she had and how many songs you do know and just maybe didn't know that it was Patsy Cline. Um, Interesting things about her, though. She's sold millions more albums since her death than while she was alive. That shows a testament to really how timeless she is, in my opinion. Um, Songs on this album are, Crazy, and everybody knows Crazy. And there's about 25 songs on this album, and it's really easy to listen to because the songs are only between 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes long. Um, Nothing crazy. She's not, some concept album type of person. But once you hear her and get familiar with her, she'll be somebody you recognize for generations to come, for sure. Her influences kind of are interesting in how they come through in her songs. Is Hank Williams on one side country, but she really looked up to Judy Garland. So meld those together and you get Patsy Cline, in my opinion. She was the first female solo artist inducted into the Country Hall of Fame. And when she was younger, like a teenager, I think, she had rheumatic fever. And when she came out of that illness, she could sing with a booming voice that she never had before. So that throat infection served her well. So that's my choice number 5.
So to do something a little bit different, since Deb has picked Patsy Cline, I will give you 2 to think about who are in that wheelhouse in the middle of time and new. So obviously Linda Ronstadt would fall into that category.
Yes.
As a vocal crooner who has that dusty feel to her and delivery. Is it all country? No, but is it slow? Is it Western? Is it, I don't know. I agree, right? And Patsy Cline is a wonderful choice. And then for somebody new, Yola, Yola, her album Walk Through Fire. You miss Patsy Cline? Well, Yola is doing this in a perfect pitch. Emotional attachment. That's right. Walk Through Fire. She's actually talking about her house burning down to the ground. And a clear and concise lyrical commitment. While this does bend that alt country genre to nearly non-existent, it's a beautiful comparison that people might want to notice. Excellent vocalist. And songwriter, and I think she plays guitar too. But anyway,
okay, nice.
So, let's go to Alex for his number 5.
My number 5 is the 3rd studio album from Old Dominion, the self-titled album. And no, not the version of it they came out with in 2020 called the Meow Mix, where every single lyric was replaced with the word meow.
Get out.
Yes, that was a spoofy thing they did in 2020, where every single vocal was replaced with the word meow. Though I would like to hear how they did it on some of these songs, but what I enjoy about this album is it blended a very good mix of being a modern country album that had a reason to catch you with each track. And that seems to be really the premise of a lot of the albums that make it to the top of my list, or are the ones that you're able to listen to through and have a reason for liking each one, both individually and all together. Big thing with them in this one is I thought they felt their most natural when they came out with this. I liked bits and pieces of things they'd come out with here and there. This is the one that for me as a group really stuck out for me, and vocally they're a really harmonious group. I believe there's 5 of them as well. So you mix that in, it's got a good mix of the romantic side of them, and then you got the mellower side of them as well, and the fun side of them. So yeah, my 5th goes to Old Dominion self-titled studio album, the 3rd that they came out with.
Nice.
What year is that? You know?
2019 it came out.
Okay, 19. So more modern country then, right?
Yeah, and that'll be a big trend of a lot of what I have.
Okay. Well, hey,
Sure.
works. Okay. Are
Here
you
we
ready?
go.
Warning. This album contains deeply offensive material on all levels. No, really it does. That's right. This guy put the cunt in country. This is Howlin' Willie Cunt, and that's Ginger Wildheart, in case you're wondering. And the album is called World of Filth. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. My number 5 is a country rockabilly album, but it is one that you're not going to play around the kids. That's right. No playing around the kids, because here are the song titles for tonight. 5 Million Ways to Kill Your Baby. Let's start that off right. 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Then after that, it's Your Heart Belongs to Jesus, but Your Ass Belongs to Me. Number 3, A Little Bit O' Gravy. All right. I don't know where they're putting the gravy. I don't think you want to listen. Say It With Herpes, the following song. That's right. Say It With Herpes. I guess you mean it. Darling in the Garden. Then a personal something that, I can't even imagine how you come up with a song like this. But the next song is Homosexual Punch Bag in a Wheelchair. 9 Colored Spastics on a Meat Hook, followed by Caffeine Bomb. The similar titled Something on the Road. I'd rather have up in my ass than have you in my heart. White Guys, The Hand of a Child. Take that any way you want. Colombian Lineman, Country Boy, and when you're all done, you're going home to Satan. That's right. I won't say it again. That's my number 5 album. Listen to it if you dare. This is rockabilly, no question. Country doesn't waver. And Ginger Wildheart has many, many projects that he does. He is well respected in the rock, country rock, alt rock community. Hell of a guitar player, singer, songwriter. But this one is off the rails.
Oh my God.
And that's my number 5. Good thing it was number 1. Back to Deb for something more sane. I'm sure.
I shouldn't have to go after you, but okay, great. So,
Seriously.
forgot what I was actually on this show for. My number 4, this artist didn't start out in the country genre, but I really loved what he did when he first became famous, or at least I heard of him. But he was with Hootie and the Blowfish, so it's Darius Rucker, and the album is True Believers. This album came out, I believe, in 2012. There's no mistaking that it's Darius Rucker, that's for sure. He has a very beautiful, distinctive voice, but a little bit of a wavering on the path where he had previously been performing. And I saw him at Taste of Country, which he was fantastic. This album, he's got a song on there that features Sheryl Crow. There's many hits: Radio, Wagon Wheel, Lost in You, Heartbreak Road, a lot of honky tonk piano in these songs, which is, surprising when you hear it for the first time, because it's not a Hootie style sound. But Radio is my favorite song on this album, because every 17-year-old can relate to, I've got my license, I've got my friends, but I got to drop my mom off at work first. And then I got to be back within an hour and a half. So that's my number 4. Love. Oh, and his influences, obviously Johnny Cash, but he loves golf. He's a golfer. Hootie golfs and all these celebrity golf things, and I see him on some of these tours when the celebrities are playing in the pro-am celebrity things. And yeah, so I love golf. He loves golf, and he's Hootie. So
Hootie, that's right.
Hootie.
Alex, number 4 for you.
So I'm pretty sure everyone knows this album off of the first track on it, because it's I developed such a love-hate relationship with this song as it is. But Here's to the Good Times by Florida Georgia Line. That was probably one of the quickest launches of a band I've ever heard, especially when Cruise came out. And that's the song I'm referring to.
So Tom Cruise came out of the closet? What? I don't...
There's a love-hate with that song just because of how much it got overplayed as part of this album. But what that overshadowed was the rest of a really good album, becoming, at least personally for me, a soundtrack of my summer that year. To the point that in order to get that played in a Pontiac Grand Prix, I needed to go out and buy the CD, which led me to the 2 Target exclusive bonus tracks at the back end of it that were just as good as the rest of the album.
Nice.
And that led
always good when you get the extras are good.
Oh, and it led to their second album being the cover of ended up being a deluxe album off of the back end of it with 6 additional tracks to it.
Wow.
So they really parlayed a lot to come off of this album. Not a bad track on it right down the row. It very much is a summer vibe type album. Cover of Blackstone Cherry in there as well on track 6 when they did the cover of Stay, and that became more popular for being a country song than it did anything Blackstone Cherry did for them. So I think what also opened my eyes to this album a little bit is once you started in my shoes, having listened to country right around this time, when I was a freshman and sophomore in college, I didn't really understand country music to the fullest extent going back to the roots of it. Obviously knew bits and pieces here and there and whatever came on the radio back in the late 90s, early 2000s on my way to hockey in the morning on a weekend. But as I dove into looking at the writers of the songs going down this and hearing names like Chase Rice before he ever became popular, Thomas Rhett before he ever became popular, artists that have taken off in the current day, but that had their starts way back when, just as exclusively songwriters to these albums. So I thought that was one of the first learning moments I had in terms of how that composition works. It has a personal touch to me, and on top of that, this might be the first country album that I truly appreciated front to back in time. So that holds a little sentimentality there too.
Nice.
Cool. Were your dad and mom country? Yes, no?
Dad, not so much. Other than obviously, if we're gonna go rockabilly in that genre, we'll go to the Reverend Horton Heat side of things too. But mom, she can listen to it. But it was funny because as a kid growing up, I remember 2 memories from hockey driving on Saturdays and Sundays, either Casey Kasem or just the most random assortment of country. So it had to have been on the stations back then for me too. Brooks and Dunn, Dwight Yoakam, Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, some of those early 2000s guys, Toby Keith. That's sort of sparked a little bit for me, and probably is the reason I revisited country music as I got into college. It just kind of took off. I think nationwide, that's kind of when it started, where it started to get really mainstream and popular, where it was very much hidden. But that definitely, I kind of caught on at the same time, but I don't think it was really because of that.
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how, like, again, this album coincides with that time frame when I started getting into the genre, but it more so just kind of happened that the radio turned on. I still remember the first 2 songs I ever heard on the radio when I decided, like, directly, I'm going to listen to country right now. Cruise was the third, but I remember Drink in My Hand by Eric Church, and there was a song by Jared Neiman, and if I saw the title, I would know it instantly. But I remember in succession it went, and I don't know where he kind of tailed off, but he was popular for a hot 2 years in there. But I remember it went the Eric Church song, the Jared Neiman song, and then in the Cruise, and it became how I went to sleep at night too, as I'd leave some country on my laptop playing on my desk in my dorm room, and off in the And that was streaming the radio too. That wasn't Pandora. It wasn't anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Number
Which is a long
4
way
for
from me, who could fall asleep to Metallica at one point. So,
hey, a man of all sounds and wonderment. Awesome. That's why you're on the show. So
Yeah.
why not start off with a classic Western that has the first sounds you hear to be the gunplay of Civil War? All right. Are you in? Sure you are. I know I was. How about Bluegrass Witchery and a concept record that could have only been pulled off by Mr. Sturgill Simpson? This is a high recommendation in my pure bluegrass country and lyrical passion. It's not very long, but it's extremely deep, and it's a campfire song getting where you get the skinny of it all for real. And this is the Ballad of Dood, D-O-O-D, and Juanita. This is a concept record that starts from beginning to end of the story of this dude called Dude, who was all about Juanita and how he's going to get back to her even during battle and war and everything else that goes on, pulled off by bluegrass sensation Sturgill Simpson, who has produced many of the people who might even be talked about on the show, like Tyler Childers and many others. So that's my number 4. I know
Nice.
and that's, by the way, that's August of 2021.
Okay.
So very new.
I'm now
type of record.
picturing the Grateful Dude's wife as a Juanita.
There you go, Juanita. I just love the fact that the guy's name was Dude, but he didn't spell it D-U-D-E. I love D-O-O-D. Nice. Nice.
That's like I gotta take a dude. Like,
Yeah. That is what that sounds like.
Yeah,
His
his entire catalog is extremely intense and creative, and they count him as one of the guys who has saved bluegrass. So anyway,
Really?
Yep. Deb,
Nice.
for you for number 3.
Well, you know me so well that you weren't surprised that this man is on my top 5 list, but it's Johnny Cash, I Walk the Line. It's got great songs on it, including Folsom Prison, that inspired, his visit to Folsom Prison, that made him legendary amongst people of all walks of life, obviously. Johnny Cash had a very interesting life. We've talked about him many times. Ordained minister. If he had a desert island playlist, Beethoven would be on it, which I find very interesting, but he's a musician, right? I Walk the Line, that was a song that he wrote in Germany when he was in the army for his first wife, Vivian.
Germany in the Army?
Germany in the Army. And
Germany.
yeah. See, I'm a songwriter myself.
There you
go.
Lil Deb.
Lil Deb. But he wrote that 8 years prior to this album being
Little
released.
Debbie is a bakery.
Yeah,
we're not doing that.
Lil Deb. He tried to release this song as a single, I think 2 or 3 times, and to no avail. And then he decided to do an entire album called I Walk the Line and thought maybe somebody would pay attention to it. And there's history. The album has a special personal meaning to me as well. It was on my son's playlist for as long as I can remember. And he loved the movie when it came out, and that movie was so awesome that I started to think that that's really, Johnny Cash looks like Joaquin Phoenix, and then Joaquin Phoenix looks like Johnny Cash.
Yeah,
so yeah, he was in character at least.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So that's my number 3.
Yeah, that would be one of the albums I told people you'd be surprised was in my collection. Also, Folsom Prison was on my list. That is for the timing and things that were done there. That is an album that remains in history for sure.
Yeah, pretty influential
for
sure.
You cannot have country without Johnny Cash.
I know.
Pretty much, right? All right, Alex, number 3.
My number 3 is the debut studio album of Sam Hunt, titled Montevallo. All right, this is named after the hometown of Sam Hunt, the artist's wife. Now at the time he was a quarterback and almost ended up actually, I think furthest he went was he ended up playing for the Chiefs in training camp.
Really?
Okay.
But he was Division I quarterback at University of Alabama, Birmingham, and I think he had another stop in there as well. But when he moved on to Nashville, the big backstory of this album is continued to date his girlfriend / future wife on and off. Many of the songs that came from this album were from the relationship challenges that ensued in that time period. One of the reasons, especially for this, that I liked is this is a debut album of someone who was a songwriter putting out his first collection of songs to an album for himself. This wasn't anyone writing them for him. This wasn't him taking from other songwriters, as is traditional in Nashville country. This is a songwriter saying, all right, it's time I make my own and do something off of that. So it was one of the standouts for me that way. It's another front to backer for me that I could listen to. And ironically enough, so this album came out in October of 2014. And in January of that year before this, Keith Urban released a song called Cop Car, which was written by Sam Hunt. He then put his original version on this album. And everyone knows Cop Car for Keith Urban's version, not Sam Hunt's. And I still to this day think Sam Hunt's is the better one of the two.
Interesting.
Surprising enough, in looking at some of the backstory of one of my favorites, his discography only goes one more album. And I yet have heard him on the radio with some new stuff sprinkled throughout. I know he came out with a single at the end of 2022 and maybe one in 2023. So I wonder if more is coming. But he's a figure that has been around country music in the modern day too. So I was kind of surprised to realize it had only been 2 albums, because I have some of those singles that have come out in the meantime that aren't associated with an album. So I'm looking forward to seeing more off of him. He has a really good voice, a really good mixture to his tempo, where he can speed it up and he can make a heartfelt moment out of a song too. So thank God that his quarterback career never worked out. And Sam Hunt, you are my number 3 with Montevallo.
It's a good record, real good record.
It is a song.
It's one of those that I listened to during this binging of over the last couple of weeks.
It is
his name came up
songwriter's
repeatedly.
record, and that's what I like about that.
Yeah. Yep. So females in country, there's a lot of them. In my wheelhouse and genre, there are a multitude of very charismatic and very unique vocalists, which I'll probably put in the honorable mentions. But this individual, the minute I talked about this being what we were going to do, she was one of the first people that came to mind. She would be one of the people that would come to mind for a lot of other people too, but they would be picking a different album than I'm picking. So in April 8th of 2003, Lucinda Williams came out with World Without Tears. Now, most people would pick Car Wheels on a Gravel Road. This was basically everybody's blues, raspy, rocker, folk country. But World Without Tears, I saw her live on that tour. So I guess somehow it resonates deeper to me. And I think it's a little bit more alt country than the prior Car Wheels on a Gravel. Well, not prior, because Essence came before that. So now this is kind of raspy, has her signature vocal that no one else has. It's only her and Pettibone and one other individual doing all the recordings on this and the instruments. But this is all country blues. And I think it just fits Panelists' favorites in that genre so well. Nobody does it better than she does, with the exception of a few other women that I'll mention here in the honorable mentions, that have a very unique signature too. She is a dark artist in how she relates to male, female, and grounded in that. But they're so well done. There's not a single moment of the record that you're sitting there going, well, that's a throwaway. She sings like she means it every track, whether it's a ballad of sorts or commiseration or whatever it may be. When it comes to that, she opened for Neil Young, and I was like, well, I'm gonna have to get through this, right? Because I want to hear Neil Young. But in actuality, it wound up being better than I expected. And Fruits of My Labor, Righteously, I'm gonna love you. Right? Those are very country type of backed bands with a lot of heavy blues. So, and
Nice.
she surrounds herself with good people who know how to bring it out of her. So that's always a plus too, because some people can write, but then the backing's not as good, and she always has a good backing. So that's mine. World Without Tears from Lucinda Williams.
All right.
Deb, I'll let you. Number 2.
My number 2 is from a group that I love everything from them since they first formed. Even though I was young when this album came out, it was an album that I listened to at the time that it came out. It wasn't something that I was introduced to later in life, but this is Eagles' Desperado. Every single song on that album I just love. I can listen to it over and over again, and it feels timeless to me. It's not dated at all. They got some good picking on that album. And the harmonies are just their signature Eagles harmonies, but just every song so good. I mean, you've got Tequila Sunrise and Certain Kind of Fool and Desperado, which Desperado was never released as a single. I don't think I realized that. I learned that in my looking to take some notes here, but it's the only album cover of the Eagles where the members of the band are on the front of it. So that is a fun fact for anybody besides Mark that probably knows that.
And dressed to the nines in their Ennio Morricone best for Bad and the Ugly, I guess. I don't. Yeah.
That's exactly what it looks like, because that album just reminds me I should be sitting out under the stars around a campfire with my cup of baked beans and some really nasty coffee. So that's my number 2.
Yeah, it's
I still listen to that album.
Another ode to Linda Ronstadt, right?
Exactly.
Without her, that doesn't happen.
We keep not bringing her as a feature artist, but we're always talking about all these other bands and albums and how she fits into them. So sorry, Linda.
Alex, number 2 for you.
Well, it's not just about 2, it's about 33. What if I told you there was 33 artists wedged onto one album, all performing? Well, in December of 2021, Hardy did just that with the Hicks Tape Volume 2. Now, Volume 1 was great. You add a little Zakk Wylde in there. You experiment. You get 8 tracks in there or whatever. You drop 14 tracks that none of which make the radio and are written completely, authentically new and unexpected, and bringing in the flavor of every artist featured on each individual track. And you get what is one of my favorite albums for the pure experimental genius of it. That you do not see albums made this way anymore, featuring not duets, but 3 to 4 artists a track. I think for me that immediately shot this up just for the uniqueness factor alone as one of my favorite albums. Really hard one to knock off of the number 1 spot for me. Front to back can listen to this one too. And you're getting classics mixed in there. You're getting Larry Fleet. You're getting him pulling back some of those guys. Some ones that had a little bit of a mix in there. Randy Houser got a little, and Lee Brice getting a little popular, fading off a little. Ronnie Dunn from Brooks and Dunn being put in there. And even a little back end of the album, Hardy and Morgan Wallen combo with Chris Shiflett of the Foo Fighters on the track.
So, really?
Yep. Final track of that album was Hardy Wallen and Chris Shiflett. So
I love it.
You really have to pay attention when he comes out with these, because I guarantee this is not the last one. I actually know the third one's coming out, I think, this year. The track list just got leaked, but not who's doing them.
Just so everybody's aware, it'll be tomorrow. It releases tomorrow.
Oh, even better.
Really?
Yeah. And by the way, in case people can't hear correctly, that's Hix tape, Hix. So instead of mixtape.
So I think the other thing too with the third volume coming out tomorrow, the entire basis of it's going to be all Joe Diffie songs. I believe that's the theme of this one. I think they're calling it the Diff tape. I was the name of it.
Yes. Yep.
So that should be a good one to look forward to. But volume 2 was an original straight through where I thought every single one of those tracks was unique. Love that it never made radio at all. And I think each one of those songs could be a hit on the radio for sure. So I would venture to say it could have gone that far. So if you haven't heard that one, give this one a listen. It's a fun one. It doesn't even have a Wikipedia for the album. It is so
probably not
talked about in that way.
Interesting.
Cool. So is it an album or is it a mixtape?
Yeah.
Well, 14 tracks, I'll give it album status.
Album status. There you go. All right.
Now the first one, when it was, single digit tracks, kind of putting the feeler out there, okay, I can understand maybe a no. And I think
I really don't. I don't know how many are on this new one. So
and I think what's interesting to note too is with Hardy coming out with what he did musically in his evolution, and he's ventured towards rock. I think it's cool to see when the Zakk Wyldes and the Chris Shiflets have their influence in their fingers and things. And now I believe CMT in early April, they've been doing a series called Crossroads, or I think it's Crossroads, not Crossovers. And Hardy's doing an entire set with Nickelback.
Yeah.
And in some of the preview clips I've seen, Nickelback is singing his songs from Mockingbird and Crow.
Yeah, this is the concept that they brought back. They did this once before.
Yeah, and I know
it was a good idea. It's a good idea. I mean, I like it when they do that. I think
Hardy wrote a song Rockstar that featured Nickelback, and there's some crossover to Nickelback's song to that too. So
I love that. That's great.
It's fun to see how unique. I think he gets very overshadowed, given that Morgan Wallen's always the headliner and Hardy's usually always opening up for him. It's cool to see him getting his due now with how well he can perform.
Yeah. One of my honorable mentions, Mockingbird and the Crow. All right, so my number 2. Okay, so I know this is drenched in acoustic. It's still country. I don't care how you slice it. And the songs and deliveries are in the wheelhouse of country. It's influenced by it, telling stories. It's the songwriter's mind. The minute I knew we were doing this, this gentleman was on my list and would always be on the list. The backing vocals and the pace of the record are exact, featuring Emmylou Harris. And of course, that's Neil Young, Harvest Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it Emmylou?
Oh.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, I thought it was. I'll look. Want me to look?
Well, I'll go on about the way while you look. For some reason I'm having a second guess as that it's not her. Even in the surrounding simplicity of this music, I mean, it's very simplistic music. I mean, he's got a song about his dog, it's just the best old dog, and Harvest Moon is beautiful, but the whole record has this Americana acoustic rock meat going on, but where the stories are weighted evenly throughout. So Harvest Moon was put out in November of 1992. I had this thing where I thought all my albums were going to be in the 90s. But as I started to really kind of go around, it started to change a bit, which was nice to know. So obviously my favorite song on that album is Unknown Legend, which is just, it's a portrait of Young's wife, Peggy, although he winds up divorcing her later and marrying Daryl Hannah and ruining his career, but that's a whole other story. But it's certainly one of those right the minute. I mean, I can listen to it from beginning to end. It has your lighthearted stuff. It has heavy stuff like War of Man. So anyway, it's the backing vocals. Linda Ronstadt is on
Yes,
it.
I was just gonna say, and God, we have to keep apologizing to her.
Yeah, James Taylor is on the record. I think Emmy Lou is on a different record for some
Okay.
reason. Maybe it's Linda Ronstadt with the backing vocal. So
James Taylor sang on that too.
yeah, War of Man, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, Crosby,
Yeah.
Stills, and Nash.
So
Okay,
anyway,
cool.
it's my number 2.
All right. My number 1, this album, I forgot how much I loved this album. It's definitely, even though Darius Rucker, country, this was the first country album that I truly love front to back, beginning to end, and there's no mistaking it's country. There's one song on it that kind of helped him cross over, but he didn't write the songs on this album. Jason Aldean, My Kind of Party. Love that album.
Great album.
Tattoos on This Town, My Kind of Party, Flyover States. And the first single off of it was Hicktown. Damn.
Got it in the name.
Yeah. He has his own jeans line. Brantley Gilbert wrote a bunch of songs on this album, but the song that really helped him cross over to a genre that maybe wasn't really loving country for what it is Dirt Road Anthem, even though it's very country, but that was played on the radio no matter what kind of station
It's
it
got a
was.
little bit of a rap influence to that song.
It does.
How fast
It
he can do
does
that
have a little bit of
lyrically.
a rap. Yep. Kelly Clarkson is featured on one of the songs on this album. Don't Want to Stay.
What year are we?
2010.
10. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to go see him in concert. I never made it to, I think he was at Darien like a couple times. And I think one of the times I actually was getting married that day. That I don't remember which last name that was of mine, but I think that was Hicks. So
that is the most perfect fit to this country theme.
yeah, it is. Yep. Yep. So Jason
once
Aldean,
married, 4th time
and
divorced.
he's my kind of party because he just looks so handsome on that album cover. So that's my number 1 because I listened to it again, getting ready for this show, and I went, I forgot how much I love this album.
Well,
and I'm not a country person.
I can tell you the next time I go down to Nashville and I'm on Broadway, I will be revisiting said artist's Rooftop once again because that was my favorite place to have a few this summer down in Nashville. So
awesome. Cool.
Alex, number 1 for you.
My number 1 should come as no surprise to anybody, and I didn't know which of their 4 albums I have that I could pick. We're going to go with, for someone who grew up on late 90s, early 2000s country, but loves his modern, what's the perfect transition for me? It's Midland with the album Let It Roll.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't pick which one of the 4, and honestly, I think that the reason this one stood out to me is for the same reason that of how it plays. It plays on feel. It plays on what pulls you in the moment. And I think this is one that, after hearing their first album and being excited to hear a second of theirs, and then I heard this come out as that second, it lived up to everything that I was hoping for and more, to see a different side of them, and just how much they could branch off of the first album and change their style a little bit. They are a band that I would never want to see in a big venue. I look at, well, even hearkening back to my Florida Georgia Line experience, I didn't have my driver's license, and they were playing in a small dive bar in, I think, Depew, and I missed out on Florida Georgia Line then. I would need to see these guys in some little honky-tonk shack, and you would never see a place dance more if you saw them there, as opposed to not an arena, but a Darien Lake venue. Some sort of amphitheater style place. So these guys, they are old school with all the tools that New School has. And I think that's what makes them consistent. It makes them enjoyable, and it gives them a true authenticity when you listen to their lyrics. They put spins on things, from the titles to just the verses and in between. So you definitely got to pay attention to what the title is and catch yourself off guard and a little bit of surprise throughout. But very relatable all at the same time as they are clever. So Midland could be at the top for me of country bands, period. So it was no surprise that one of their albums lands #1 for me.
Nice.
I definitely had it in my mindset that was going to be one of yours. I figured I didn't, when you hadn't done it yet, I'm like, well, Midland, but I don't know what album. And all I could keep thinking of is that one that looked like Miami Vice on the cover, like they had the pink and the
Oh,
pink
yeah.
doesn't fit country. Whatever.
They're spoofy, but they're serious. But
They're
I mean,
spoofy. They're spoofy.
but if you're
there's Rolling Stone. Yeah, they're spoofy.
Spoofy.
On the cover.
But they're not afraid to poke fun at it, but at the same time still be who they are. And I think,
Right.
especially, I mean, if you're Sue right now, I know when I drove across Texas, I was listening to all their albums. So if Sue's in the same boat, I would be telling her same thing. So
I want to say she told me what they were listening to when they were leaving El Paso.
oh God.
Well, today she was only 12 minutes from the wall.
Yeah. Damn it. Why did I not have? Oh, it was the sunset thing, right? Was it Dust in the Wind is what they were listening to.
Oh, I love it.
So
yeah, there you
not
go.
quite country, but
No.
maybe. I don't know.
No.
You got the dust part right in the wind.
Yeah. Tumbleweed.
All right, so my #1. Maybe it's why we do albums from the Leaf. I honestly, in my 2-week binge, all the things I listened to, and I'm going to bring you to the light of some things. Probably all you country fans out there be what? Well, who? What? Huh? What? I literally forgot about this record, and the minute it came back to me, I'm like, oh my Lord, what am I doing? Why is this not #1? Then there was the Neil Young fight, and and Neil lost, but I think he lost in good company. So the funny part is the lead track is called 5 Days in May, but the album title is called 5 Days in July. And this is October 1993. And this is a band whose name kind of fits alt country to the purist. And the name of the band is Blue Rodeo.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of their most successful album. This is the vocal, the lyrics, the instruments, the rock, the blues, the country. They are everything that alt country title means. They have bluegrass, they have organ, they have piano that goes organ and piano that goes absolutely batshit crazy, and improv, etc. with some of the tracks. It's clever, it's clean. The harmonies, they are the Eagles of Canada. If you don't think so, I think you need to listen again. These guys have wonderful harmony, and it's dark, and there's light and everything. To the darkness side, that's Greg Killeur, and he also invites Sarah McLachlan to join in on 2 tracks, which brings that to another. And Colin Linden, who is, a folk god of Canada, who's also in Blackie and the Rodeo Kings, or another band that was on my list. This album has those kind of tracks. I don't know if you're familiar with them. If you aren't, the songs here range from Hasn't Hit Me Yet, which is kind of like a piano driven, something about bad timing, and that's all. That's all it is. Just fix yourself. They sing about Cynthia, which is a really cool tune. English Bay, which is part of Canada, a nostalgic area, and really Dark Angel, which has Sarah McLachlan on it, and Killeur doing a ballad together, is absolutely phenomenal. While this isn't my favorite Blue Rodeo record, it is the one that is probably the most countrified alt that I can think of. The rest of them have some oddities in them that I enjoy much more. But this album is always on, and 5 Days in July is 7 minutes and 12 seconds. Has wonderful musicianship in the middle, instrumentals, and then of course they finish with "Know Where You Go and Tell Me Your Dream," which is a 9-minute collage. So it's my number one.
Nice.
Over time, would it change? I'm hoping that having gone through this exercise for 2 weeks had opened my ears to certain things. So I'll let the panelists come in for a couple of honorable mentions since we have a moment.
Okay. I have one, and I was actually going to put it in my top 5, but I've used this album on this show before as an album listen challenge with the Grateful Dude. It's Alison Krauss and Robert Plant, Raising Sand. She's such a great. She's just so good on the fiddle, and her voice and anything she does. I'm not a huge country music fan to begin with. I gravitate towards artists that aren't labeled such. And she really piqued my interest when she collaborated with my most favorite man in the world. And I love that album. So that's my honorable mention.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna rattle
Alex.
off a little bit here. 3 albums that almost made it in the list. I know I talked about this on maybe one of the first episodes of Beyond Your Radio, but A Rock by Hardy, staying consistent here. I didn't want to put 2 of them on the list. Stereotype by Cole Swindell, phenomenal album. Kip Moore's Up All Night.
Kip Moore.
There's one track on the back end of that album, Faith When I Fall, that I swear to God, I could be in the best mood ever, and I still need to slow it down and listen to that track because it's soulful. Influences of guys that there's so much discography to go through of these guys that it's hard to pick one. Jason Aldean, Eric Church, Luke Combs, Brad Paisley, one of the best live performers I've seen with the way he can play guitar. Dustin Lynch, Blake Shelton. Female wise, and I can't pick an album off of her, but every time I hear her vocals, I stop in my track. Carrie Underwood. Notice I'm not saying Taylor Swift because I don't believe that's country music outside of her first album.
Agree.
And that's just a personal preference.
Me
and
too.
then there is a Buffalo native from West Seneca I want to give a little shout out to down in Nashville that I believe is coming out with a new album sometime this year, who I got to watch perform at the Music is Art Festival this summer right outside of Hartman's. And when I got to meet him afterwards, great dude, Eric Van Houten. Incredible performer watching him live, and he had a hell of a band with him too as well. So a little shout out to him. And while we're talking about Canadian country, Brett Cassell is another phenomenal one no one talks about very much. I've had an affinity for some of his stuff too, and I know there's a former pro hockey player turned country artist, Chad Brownlee, that has put out some good music as well. So so there's a little bit of a small rundown, but yeah, I'm excited. I just saw the post the other day on Eric's Instagram that he's got something cooking right now, and to Deb's point too, she was talking all the good of Jason Aldean. His nephew Logan Crosby from the ABC show Claim to Fame has put out some really good music in my ears lately too. So,
oh, you know what? Somebody better mention Linda Ronstadt. I'm sorry, Linda.
Yes, Linda again, right? All right, so I had an album that was in there that would have been classified country through and through, but I pulled it at the last minute because of how things went down, and that would be Tyler Childers' Purgatory. Now this is served up dark, raw, deep. It's relentless. He's unafraid of whatever he's going to do. He does go into the picking, which is Purgatory album title is the picking song, although the rest of the album doesn't have much picking or bluegrass on it, but that one he did go through that. The lyrical passion of it. It's kind of funny how it could be he's being serious or he's being funny. You really can't tell. Although I'm assuming he's being serious because he's talking about Purgatory. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. It's the first time I've heard anything of his. That was interesting to me. And the females were really heavy on my list, and then I couldn't keep them all in. First of all, that Yola I spoke of, I already mentioned, but
Mhm.
if anyone's not familiar with Alison Moorer, Moorer, she is the sister of Shelby Lynne. She tends to bend the country into an alt country. The album is called The Duel, Duel. The sister of Shelby Lynne has a better vocal arrangement and mood and is dripping with desire and soft range and changes that elevate the music. She has fantastic timing, how things are put together. It's misty and engaging start to finish. She has multiple records, but I would put that one above most. Then Jesse Sykes and the Sweet Hereafter. I don't know if any of you know this. This artist has been around a long time. I use Reckless Burning as the album that I chose, but there's another one called Oh My Girl, also in it, and this is all that wispy sort of alt folk country. Some of it isn't, maybe. And then I actually had Nico Case's Blacklisted. She was in the top 5. I had to pull her out when I thought about Lucinda Williams. They were duking it out together. Nico is a very unique voice and a songbird. She may be the female version of Johnny Cash in all actuality in how she develops songs. Depending on the mood, it's a slow desert salsa music mayhem if you want. She's not afraid to dance into those murky waters. So that's Blacklisted, although Confessions of Something or Other is probably the most famous album she ever had, but Blacklisted it's good. I think it's Nico Case and her boyfriends is the name of the band, which is really cool, I think. If you're looking to go dark, sad, and deep, well, Jillian Welch will take you there in her Revival album. That's kind of has that gospel haunt kind of thing going on. She has a very haunting delivery. Yeah, you could probably put her in that battle for the female Johnny Cash too, I imagine. So getting out of that genre of the female and going to one of the most iconoclastic Western sounds coming from an Italian, which makes absolutely no sense. Ennio Morricone's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. If that's not Western country, I don't know what is.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Yeah,
Minus the cackling at the end. I'm pretty sure that everybody emulates that as pure desert country Western, right? And then if you want to slide off into my realm where I'm really loving is the dusty jazz country Spanish influenced Calexico. Their album Feast of Wire just had its anniversary. It's got Spanish flavor to it. And then what did I had Hardy on there. And then a band no one's probably ever heard of. The Deep Dark Woods. Hang Me, Oh Hang Me. This is so well delivered and slightly melancholy. A real effort toward elevating their musicianship slightly, song by song. It's almost like they were channeling Blue Rodeo's Diamond Mine song throughout an entire record. The album does move through from start to finish, and it was somebody I did not know about. I wanted to go into when I broke these down, I said country, dark country. I didn't go into the swamp thing because I knew who those guys were, and it sounded like Southern rock more than it did country. So I stayed out of that realm. So, and then finally, Shane Smith and the Saints, who Deb and I did an album review just a little bit ago. I thought that was a nice connected piece of. It was really on my list for a while there until I started diving down and getting that. It's not as well produced as some of these people that I mentioned. I don't know. I had a good time with this. I was expecting not to and get my 5 and move on. Obviously, I've been setting this up for a long time for number 5 and waiting and waiting and waiting. I do recommend if you like to laugh and have a good time and be slightly disturbed yet off color, this is as off color as it gets. Enjoy it. I meant no offense. I don't subscribe to that point of view, and I don't think Ginger Wildheart does either. So anyway, let us know what your 5 favorite country albums were. Pontificate, if you will. Leave us some comments, likes. I do love to chime in with people. It's a lot of fun. I want to thank the panelists for doing this. They didn't have to. They didn't put a 6 shooter to their head. In 2 weeks, we'll be back with favorite albums from 1974. Why? Because they're 50 years old this year. We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, of course. So Saturday, tomorrow will be album review. Saturday, hang in there. They're all odd, boy. There's no saving grace on any of these. These are all obtuse records from somewhere or another. Three of them from Italy. There is no Unknown Sundays this week because it is Easter Sunday. Next week, we will be doing Of Sound Minds, which will be our 250th video. Believe it or not.
Wow.
Crazy.
So be on your radio with us, a real music appreciation channel or just a real wicked one. You decide. Thanks for watching. Happy listening.